not in the car. You forgot your kid at the public toilets. I love it. I mean, there's no judgment here, literally zero judgment. And do you know what? The other one was when my daughter broke her arm and I'm like, hey, listen, I need to have a shower before I take you to the hospital.
I cannot turn up to emergency looking like this.
Just pop your arm on. Like, I was well versed with broken bones. Just pop your arm on this pillow. Mummy will be back in like 10 minutes. Hey, mamas. So this week we thought we would actually have some fun. Vanessa has just turned 40, FYI, and she's just back from her weekend of being 40 by herself with her sisters somewhere in New Zealand, kicking up her heels. But we have actually got this hilarious photo that we're going to post with this podcast of Vanessa's partner just delivering her a Valentine's drink because they weren't together for Valentine's for this podcast. So make sure you look out for Andrew in his sunglasses delivering a great gin and tonic to Vanessa. But this week for our podcast to celebrate Vanessa, we're actually going to be doing the 4 museums of failure. Now, that's a viral trend going around the globe. Like at the moment, I had no idea what it was until Vanessa told me. So I'm like, I've totally got 4 museum of failures. So we are just going to peel back some of our parenting moments, some of our relationship moments, and just take you behind the scenes with us and also give you some takeaways. I mean, you can learn from our mistakes. So let's just dive in. Ness, welcome
Hopefully
back.
Our mistakes have been worth something, Han. Hopefully they've been worth something. And I'm so interested to hear what your big ones are.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I haven't revealed all of mine to you. So this is a surprise for both of us. It's really exciting.
So just so everybody knows watching, obviously this is timeless because it's a podcast. For us, it is Sunday afternoon here in Oz. It is Sunday evening in New Zealand. And we thought, you know what, let's just kick off the week by doing this. So Ness, let's jump straight in. Number 1, we were going to look at our finer parenting moments and pick out one of the best. What was your number 1 parenting museum of failure moment?
Okay. Well, I feel like I haven't had too many, but all of the parenting failure moments I've had have all been with the same child. And it's my eldest daughter, and she was an only child for 11 years. And all of the failures happened while she was my only child.
She was the tester.
She was the tester. She was testing out my parenting grounds and seeing if I'd pass the test. She still loves me. We still talk. So obviously I didn't do anything too bad. And Adele, I love you and you'll appreciate these stories. So my first failure with her, and actually this was a recurring theme, really unfortunately, was there were 1 or 2 occasions when I forgot to pick her up from school. And she was my only child. I had nothing else to remember other than earning an income and picking up my child from school and raising her.
Okay, can we just
twice?
How were you so embedded in work that you didn't have a time check? Or
Yes.
How do you forget to pick your kids up from school numerous times?
Well, numerous times. It was engrossed in just work, business. We were running a business. It was 7 days a week. So you kind of forget what day it is and you're just working, not looking at the clock properly. And there was an occasion where 40 minutes after pickup time, I looked at the clock and had to jump in the car and go. One of them was a miscommunication about which parent was picking her up, and neither of us checked in with each other, so she didn't get picked up for about an hour that time. And I'm not sure what happened on one of the third occasions, but I just remember pulling up to school, the same school that your daughter went to in Australia, pulling up to school, and it was p.m, so she must have been there for quite a while. And she was sitting outside the library. The whole school had closed up. They'd locked all of the doors and they didn't even let her stay in the library. No teacher sat with her. So she was sitting by herself outside until I came to pick her up at 5 o'clock. And I actually don't remember why or what.
And for people listening, where the girls went to school, it was like acreage. It was these big, stunning grounds. It's a stunning school, but there was literally no way that Adele could have walked to wherever she's going. So she stayed outside the library and waited for you. Did you used to pack her extra afternoon tea? just in case you forgot.
I've
Here's
never
some
packed
extra
my
food.
children's lunches. Our parenting styles are so different, Hannah. I don't even pack a 5-year-old's lunch. I'm like, I
That
want you
is
to be
true.
independent.
You
You go and
don't.
do it.
Oh my gosh. We're so similar in so many ways and so different in so many ways,
We
which I love
are.
about
And
us.
the last one, the failure I had with the same child was actually driving away and leaving her at some public bathrooms when we were on holiday. And this is a shocker.
What?
I sound like the most awful, irresponsible parent, and I swear I'm not.
Wait, you were on a car trip? You stopped
Yeah.
to go to the bathroom, to the toilet?
We're on a car trip. Again, she's an only child, so she's in the back of the car, and we pull up to the bathrooms, and I said, do you need to go to the toilet? She's sitting in the back beautifully. She's just a gorgeous, beautiful angel. And she said, no, I don't need to go to the toilet. That's fine. So I went into the toilets, and while I was in there, I wasn't aware, but she decided I do need to go to the toilet. So she went in, and I didn't hear her. We came back to the car, hopped in the car, and just drove off because she's so quiet all the time. We just didn't turn around to think that she had gotten out of the car. And so we just drove off. And at that time, she came out of the toilet, saw her parents driving off out of the car park without her. We got a good 30 seconds down the road, like a whole 30 seconds. And I was saying something to her. And what do you think of that, Adele? Adele? Adele?
She's not in the car. You forgot your kid at the public toilets. I love it. I mean, there's no judgment here. Literally zero judgment. And do you know what? Everybody listening to this may be like, oh, I've forgotten my child a few times too.
Please,
or
if you have, please put me out of my misery and let me know, because I feel like now that I've said this out loud, I feel like the worst parent.
No.
Please hit me with yours, Hannah. What's your parenting fail? Please.
Mine's worse than that. Like you, I
Really?
know, like
Okay.
you didn't have very many. I reckon I've done the parenting failures to add up for both of us, and probably like half the population in the world. Okay. So we were over in Canada, and we were at a place called the Great Wolf Lodge, and that's like this massive indoor water park, theme park. Does that make sense? A water park. So, but it's themed is what I'm trying to say.
Undercover.
Yeah.
Indoors,
But
yeah.
it's like what they do, and this is what I love about North America. They always do everything big. So they had this amazing resort attached to the indoor water park. And like it's like, think about this. There is snow coming on to the ceilings, which are all glass topped, and it was just stunning. So you're in there, you're having fun. You're playing with the kids all day. Go back to the room where we stayed. And the next morning we had 2 big beds, I think they were 2 king size beds, and there were 4 of us. So one parent had one bed, I had the other bed, and then we just split. So I had Charlotte in my bed for the night, and then Sonny was with his dad in his bed. And he was only a wee little guy. So he must have been, say, call it 3, between 3 and 4. And he jumped out of bed to come and give me morning cuddles. So he tries to get up into the bed. Now, remember, he's just a little 4-year-old, and he flips and he falls down and he starts crying. And so I sort of get up and I'm like, it's okay, sweetheart. Grab him, put him into bed with me. Okay. He kind of settles, but not completely. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're like, it's going to be all right. Like, close your eyes, like give mommy, 45 more minutes worth of sleep. So I'm not correlating him falling out of bed, because it wasn't that profound of a fall, and him being upset. Like I'm not sure why it didn't cross my mind that the two were, in partnership at this point in time. So I then wake up and I'm like, okay, something's the matter with him. I think he might have a vomiting bug. So I'm just kind of cuddling him. It's all right, buddy. It's going to be okay. Time ticks on. It's now like 9 o'clock. I call the hotel and I'm like, hey, listen, we need a late checkout. They're like, no problem. And I'm like, he's settling. He's okay. We were going up to Toronto from where we were staying. So it was about a 4-hour drive. Get him in the car and he's completely fine. He's eating, he's drinking, he's happy as Larry. I'm like, no worries. He's obviously fine. He's all good. Drive up 4 hours, not a week, not a whimper, nothing. Get to the hotel. Everybody jumps out of the van. I pick him up. He starts crying again. Still not crossing my mind that he fell out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. We're now talking 12 hours later. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give you a shower. So I take off his t-shirt and his whole collarbone had dropped. He had broken his collarbone and he had done it 12 hours before, and I didn't know he had a broken collarbone. So as soon as I saw that, I was just like, oh my goodness, like your whole heart drops. Get back into the car. We're in this foreign place in Toronto. Go to the hospital, have an x-ray. I look at the nurses and the doctors and I'm like, I am the worst mother in the world. This kid broke his collarbone at about 5 o'clock this morning. It's now 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And that was one of my museum of failures. Just one. Just one. The other one was when my daughter broke her arm and I'm like, hey, listen, I need to have a shower before I take you to the hospital.
I cannot turn up to emergency looking like this.
Just pop your arm on. Like, I was well versed with broken bones. Just pop your arm on this pillow. Mummy will be back in like 10 minutes. So like, she's like, still gives me curry about that. So there are my epic failure.
I actually don't feel as bad about my story now.
Thank you. You can leave your kid at school and mine's got broken bones that I completely forgot about. What about, we also had... probably changing gear on this, business failure. So you and I love our business. We love starting things, doing things, and all things business. Yeah. So talk to me about one of your museum of failures in the business space.
Yeah, in the business space, I feel I'm fortunate. I am fortunate because all the business failures I have been a part of have not actually been my businesses. But I've been working in them. So one, for example, was a business. I was just the BDM and it was a startup. So we're rolling it out, and then earthquake happened in the city. We were in a major earthquake in Christchurch, and in 30 seconds, tourism was just died immediately, and it was in tourism. So that was interesting. That business finished immediately. And again, I wasn't actually a partner in that at all. So I was able to just walk away. But at the time, that actually gave me a catalyst to, my partner had started a business around the same time. So I jumped into that and helped him grow that. Yeah, I don't think he realized that I had a skill set that was quite useful. So after about 2 years of helping him out a lot in that business, he said, how about I give you 10% of the business? How about 50?
Yeah, that's right.
So probably the biggest, and so we ended up having that business for 8 years, and it was a great wee business. It was actually a franchise business, a property management franchise company. It was boutique but profitable, and it was great. So that was my first business startup that I was able to do, where I could just 100% invest myself into it, which was a great learning ground. So 2 failures with that. The first one is that I never paid myself out of that business in 8 years. And I've learnt from that even if you just pay yourself 10% of what comes in, pay yourself something, because although I did, it did cover a certain amount of costs, I was just reinvesting everything back into the business, and we really just didn't take anything from it. And we did grow and expand, and we never had debt in that business. So it was very sustainable from that sense. There really wasn't much stress, but I should have paid myself. But the major failure with that was when we were about 3 years into that business and things were starting to pick up. So I was working in that full-time, and full-time, I was actually able to work about 30 hours a week, which meant that I was able to be more available for my daughter and didn't forget to pick her up from school at that time. So that was good. But my partner had an opportunity to start another business with 2 other guys. And so we ended up moving city and launching that business. And he really wanted me to help him out with that. So I came into that, again, more of a BDM role, or getting the sales team up and running. And this time around, I said, well, I'm not a partner in this business, so I'll just get paid, please. So that was helpful. I got paid just on a salary from that business, which helped things. But it grew quickly, that business. It was 7 days a week. We were living on site, and it just consumed all of us. In the background, I was still running our franchise business, which was growing and it was doing really well, and still flying around the country, rolling out franchises with that and managing to do it in about a day and a half a week. So it was a beautiful little business. And looking in the rear view mirror, I probably should have just stuck to our business yeah. But anyway, you learn so much in the process. We ended up this 7-day a week business. It grew and became this monster basically. It was busy, it was churning. There were 26 staff and all these trucks and customers, and it was a big engine. And then that started to reach its natural end. It had a finite time just because of the nature of the business. And towards the end of that, my partner and I really started to suffer badly from burnout. And we were just at the end of our tether with everything. And then we had to go through a year of kind of unpacking things, winding up the business, splitting the business off in different directions is what we did. And unfortunately, at the end of that year, and then our son was born, and we moved country. By the time we moved to Australia, we had this 3-month-old baby and we'd wound up the other business. And then we had our franchise business still ticking away so beautifully. And I was so burnt out. I couldn't turn up to the phone calls with the franchisees. I just had absolutely nothing to give them in my tank. You go?
So along the way, because you got yourself to burnout in that, just going back to not paying yourself, because if there's mums who are listening to this and we wanting to provide tangible tools for them in this space, what made you not pay yourself in the first place? Why didn't you draw an income to support yourself financially during that time, even if it was nominal?
It's a great question, and it's actually something that I have only just thought about recently because I heard it talked about on another podcast, and I thought, actually, when I ran that business, I wanted to grow the business and not borrow any money to do that.
Yeah.
So it made sense that any extra cash flow that we got in, it was a very predictable cash flow business. It was recurring revenue. So it was a really beautiful business in that sense. And we just poured it back into the growth of the business to pay for marketing and expansion and a staff and the like. So they got paid. But yeah, I'm not sure what the mind block was there. Just thinking you just have to put everything into it, ride out maybe 5 years, and then when it's at a sustainable enough level to start drawing wage. But actually it was at a sustainable level the whole way through. Maybe it just wasn't, I'm not sure what that number was in my mind. So I think going forward, I would think there has to be a certain number in my mind that when that level of income is coming in, it's time to start paying myself 10% or 20% of what's coming in on a consistent basis. And as that builds, just grow with it. That's something, yeah, I would absolutely do differently. So the sad part about that is that we did have managers in place at that time who were helping run the business, and we tried to sell the business to someone who was working in it. She was really keen, but unfortunately, once she got to know our franchisees, that put her off ever buying the business. And again, we had a second buyer, and once they met the franchisees, they were like, we're not having that business. They were hard work. It was, I didn't realize how much of the role was actually just counseling these people and being a life coach to these people through life. Again, I was refining my skill set, which is fantastic, but so much of it was probably a bit too reliant on my skill set. Yeah, so again, it's just systems. I should have put better systems in place. So we ended up selling that business out to the franchisees so that they could operate their business independently from our license. And that was the natural wrap up for that. Lessons learned.
Wow.
Lessons learned. Don't burn yourself out building somebody else's business when you have a beautiful one in your own backyard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, and again, there could be so many different museum of failures I could bring to this conversation in terms of business. So I'm going to actually give myself a couple, but I want them to be very practical for people who are looking at starting a business or wanting to scale a business or not sure where to start. So number one for me was knowing my finances intimate and having all the infrastructure up and running well. So I got myself into a pretty big tax debt initially. And that is because I allowed somebody else to run that side of the business for me, and I didn't pay attention to it. I gave way too much trust out. And then the conversation was, hey, listen, we owe X amount of dollars by this date to the ATO. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how did we get there? Like, what in the actual?
Mm.
So I know you have to know your finances really intimately and make sure that you have all the infrastructure in place. So now I actually pay somebody a retainer to do my accounting and to do all my bookkeeping. And I go, listen, you tell me how much money I need to put aside for the ATO and my BAS statements every week or every month rather, so there's no
Yeah.
surprises. And so I don't ever end up in that space again. So
Yeah.
museum of failure, getting myself into a tax debt, but learning from that and understanding that knowing your finances intimately is critical when running a business, and also your pipeline. So understanding where your sales are going to come from. There's sales cycles in everything that we do, depending, like every market has a sales cycle. So looking at your sales cycle, knowing when there's high moments and low moments, and really understanding your market so you can buffer in the quiet stages of that, sales cycle, so you can actually have a consistent wage. So that would be one museum of failure. The next thing is I bought into a franchise. So I bought into an F45 gym, and I didn't do my due diligence enough on those who I went into the business with. So I went in as a silent investor, and I thought in my head it was going to play out one way, when in fact it played out a completely different way. And
Okay.
that business was, yeah, it was a very hard business. From personality, we had a lot of cooks in the kitchen in terms of how many people directors we had. We actually had 4 parties. So with that came a lot of, different ways that we would approach things. And I hadn't done my DD, my due diligence, enough on those who I went into business with. And
Yeah.
so when I would, provide strategy or ideas or marketing ideas, they were shut down. And there was sort of one person who ran the show basically. And if he didn't get his own way, then it went sour really quickly. So I think if you're at a point where you're looking at going into business with somebody, ensure you have a long history of understanding of who they are, or you've got enough character references to know who they are. You can see that they've got the right experience in, growing a business, maintaining a business, scaling a business, and don't leave it to fate, because
Yeah.
you're investing money. So I got out of that business and I was okay. Like, I didn't lose money, but only just. It was starting to sink pretty quickly. So that would be, yeah, from a serious point of view, ensure you know who you're going into business with, and you know who they are and their character and their competency and their capability. So that was another epic museum of failure for me. Loved the gym, like loved the heart of wanting to serve a community and people to come in from a holistic approach and become their best version. That was the reason why I said yes to investing into it in the first place. But yeah, make sure you know, on a really serious level, who you're going into business with intimately. So that would be, they're my 2 museum of failures. Um,
I'm glad to hear you came out fairly unscathed from that and with the lessons learned. But it's a really good point you make about actually judging someone's character. And I think someone like yourself and maybe myself, we are constantly looking for opportunity in every area of life. And sometimes when you are looking for opportunity or opportunity comes your way, you do have some rosy colored glasses on at times where
yeah,
sometimes you don't always see people's true character, or some people are very good at sales, good salesman or saleswoman.
yeah.
And, and it is hard to dig to the bottom of that. So it's a really good point you make about actually just slowing the train down and saying, let's just do our checks on this. And you can take that across any area of life, not just business as well. But usually there's more money involved,
Absolutely. And I
you know,
think there's a
from a business perspective.
whole conversation around this about how to set up a business. So Like, what are the A, B's, and C's? So for me, the way that I traditionally will set up a business is you got to make sure, obviously, and some people may not know this, you get your ABM, you've got to register it, get yourself a good accountant to set all the infrastructure up for you. You've got to do your BAS statements quarterly. Have somebody that knows what they're doing do that for you so that you don't run yourself into financial problems long term. And then all of a sudden you've got this outstanding tax debt. Understand structures, understand what you can write off and what you can't. And that's all guided
Yeah.
by a good accountant, a good bookkeeping,
Yeah.
bookkeeping team. For me, I inject money, capital into a business as a loan because then I can pull that money back when I get money back into the account and I don't have to pay
Yeah.
tax on that. So I'm not here to give tax advice, and everybody needs to do their own due diligence. But my number one recommendation is always start with a great accountant who knows how to set it up and set it up well and give you really good sound advice on,
Yeah.
proceeding. And I'm guessing that's globally, not just here in Oz or NZ.
Absolutely. And this has been one of the hardest things that we've had in business is actually building that team around you, the right team, a great lawyer, great accountant, great mentor or advisor. And we took years, maybe 12 years to find a really great accountant. And we had some terrible accountants, absolutely terrible. And it made us look tardy and messy, and we're very careful with our books. So there's a little bit of dodgy ground there. We're very fortunate to have a great one now who we can actually ask advice, but we've been looking for a great solicitor for a long time. And again, it's the due diligence you have to do on people.
Yeah.
Professionals around you as much as business partners as well. And it is interesting. And I know we're sort of going down the track of a little bit of business talk here. Maybe we can splice this out into a different topic to talk about one day. But when you do have a business, and even if you are a stay-at-home mum running a business and you want to scale it a little bit, now's the best time in history to be able to do that because you can have virtual assistants, you can have, let's say, drop shipping, or depending what you're in, you can outsource services. But you do have to, there is a balance with outsourcing, but also keeping an eye on what people are doing as well, and actually having to learn those management skills, those people management skills, so that you can grow what you're doing and not have to do everything yourself, because that results in burnout.
Yeah.
So all these lessons learned, but actually trusting people, but not blindly trusting them, but actually keeping an eye on things as well and having to have a bit of oversight. So yeah, I think great lessons.
And that's something that we're now doing for Stronger Side. And I think that's really important. Like, people are watching us from the sidelines. This is all brand new. Our heart
Yeah.
is to serve our mums. Our heart is to rally around our mums and create community and empowerment and education. And the podcast is one anchor to that. But we're doing it in different ways. So the reason I say that is you and I, behind the scenes, we're having multiple meetings constantly with different people, different stakeholders, different partnerships that we're investigating and exploring at the moment. But one thing that I have really learnt from you is make sure everything's automated. So where you can, automate everything. And that just makes so much sense because time is so valuable. So if you're having to respond to sort of the same message over and over again, or just simple things, automation makes your business so efficient. Yeah.
My belief is that any part of your life that is a repetitive process should be automated as much as possible, even down to your grocery list. I have my groceries delivered to my house, but you can have recurring grocery lists.
I love that.
And I have my toilet paper delivered by subscription. I don't have to think about buying toilet paper or coffee pods. I do. Every 2 weeks, a box of toilet paper and coffee pods turn up, and they kind of go hand in hand anyway. So it's
love
quite
that.
convenient. You have your coffee, you need your toilet paper, so that works.
That's insane. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh,
I think this is a very real conversation that we will need to explore. So if you're listening and you've got any questions about all things business, we can give you our experience. and we can give you our knowledge freely. But anything that we say on the podcast, I always encourage you to do your own research and your own due diligence and speak to your own stakeholders and your own professionals, and then, make an informed decision from there. So I just wanted to preface that as well. What
Yeah,
about,
absolutely.
okay, friendships or relationships? So what is a museum of failure for you in that space? Now, don't say, and I love this. Nobody knows this. Well, I'm guessing not many people will know. Vanessa was my bridesmaid, and she literally had fake or false eyelashes on, and she cried her eyelashes off by the time she got to the end of the aisle. They were gone.
Yeah,
There was
it's true.
there was like eyelashes. They were,
Flapping like this.
she cried, but that wasn't an epic failure. But I thought that was hilarious. Talk to me about one of your museum of failures in friendships.
Okay, well, it was such a privilege to be a bridesmaid at your wedding, and that's why I was crying my eyes out, because it was just wonderful to be there. And having journeyed with you through divorce and separation and moving cities and all the things, to see you up there with your beautiful husband, it was just such a beautiful moment, and I cry all the time these days since I found my heart. So it was amazing and well worth crying off my eyelashes. So one failure of a friendship I had was actually when we were friends for about 18 years, so a long, long time throughout school and then into early adulthood. I was a real people pleaser, especially when I was a teenager and a young adult. I just didn't like to be on the wrong side of people at all, and I didn't like to upset people. So if somebody asked something of me, it was a natural, yes, sure, I'll help out because I wanted to. And I was taken advantage of pretty easily, being that kind of person, not too badly, but again, with the same recurring people. But I did have a friend who was sort of saw a gap and took advantage of that a bit too much. So I had my daughter, and she had her daughter fairly young as well, but she actually got married. So she had a bit more support around her than I did, which was interesting. But she was the kind of person who would ask me to look after her daughter on a very regular basis so she could work or have a night with her husband. And I loved her daughter a lot, and she was best friends with my daughter. So for me, it was always a natural, yes, absolutely, happy to have her, happy to have her. But I was single and didn't have much time to myself because I was working full time and I was a single mum. And when my friend and I were together, we had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of great companionship with her. I really enjoyed her company. But I did find that over time, she would ask more and more of me. And when I would ask her to look after my daughter so I could do something, I was very organized with childcare, so I didn't need to rely on people too much. But if I asked her, could you take my daughter for the day so I can da da da, it was always a no. And no, I'm too busy. No, I can't. No, it doesn't suit. And so this started happening over and over, and this happened to me for about 4 years before I started to kind of realize that this was very one-sided. I then got into a relationship, and my boyfriend pointed out to me, he's like, this friendship of yours is really one-sided, you just be
Wow.
careful there. Yeah, and I just really
Yeah.
didn't see it. And when I was a single mum, and I know I've talked about this before, I was really lonely. I didn't have many girlfriends. And I think the ones that I did have, and she was one of them, I really kind of clung on to her because I had a lot of guy friends, but it's different when you just need your girlfriends.
Mm.
And she was good company and she was fun. And I just kind of, did allowed her to take advantage of me in that way. Yeah, so it was all her way or the highway, really. And then it got to the point where I started to wake up to this a little bit, and I didn't want to be the person who'd like test her out, but I kind of got to that point where, and then this final straw moment was where it was my daughter's birthday, and I invited her and her daughter to come and stay the night at our house and have a sleepover. For my daughter's birthday, it was the only people we invited, so it was just her for the party. And on the morning she was meant to be coming, she texted me and said, I can't be bothered driving.
Come
And
on,
it was
really?
the only thing I had planned for my daughter's birthday was for her friend to come over and stay, because they were very
Oh,
close. Our daughters were very close. And I just went, wow, you can't be bothered. Wow, okay. And so it was at that point I thought I just need to step back from this friendship. This had been, it makes me sound like the most weak person, but I'd started to wake up to it and I realized this has been going on for quite a while. You know, she was probably the funniest situation was when her daughter was young and I had moved back home with my parents when my mum died. I was living with my dad. And my friend pulled up to the gate. She texted me to say, can you look after my daughter today? And I hadn't seen the message for whatever reason. It was Saturday, I think, so I wasn't working. She pulled up to the gate, pushed her daughter in the gate, and jumped in a car and drove off. And my dad looked out the window and said, Ruby Jean's in our yard. Are you expecting
What
her
in
today?
the world?
Yeah. So, anyway.
So she took full
absolute
advantage of you, is what I'm hearing.
Full advantage of me. And silly me, I feel like an absolute fool saying that out loud at all, that I allowed it to go on for that long. I had left a relationship that was very similar to that. And so, I just had the kind of character. I just struggled to read people and their intentions or bad intentions for a long, long time.
In all seriousness, what if there is another person listening to this and they know that they are in a relationship, whether relationship with their partner or relationship with girlfriends? What would be your number one advice then in terms of going, know your worth and get out, but putting that boundary in place? Like, what would you say to that woman who's going, I resonate with that story, but I don't know what to do with it right now?
Well, I think you actually had the answer in there, Hannah. And please know, ladies, I am not a psychologist and I am Vanessa, who's been taken advantage of and learnt the lessons. So we'll start there. But I think the answer wasn't exactly what you said just then. What are the boundaries? I think the answer is actually putting boundaries in place.
Yeah.
If you're a person who doesn't have those boundaries in place for yourself, first of all, you have to know your value. So you have to know that you are worthy of being loved and having good friendship or having a good relationship, but you also need to know what you're not going to stand for as well. And when people do love you, you can put boundaries in place and they will respect that. You can test people out with this. So as an example, you and I have certain boundaries around communication because when we get on the phone, we can talk for 2 hours very easily. But we put boundaries on ourselves and each other, and we both respect that, such as 4:30 for me. You can't contact me for 3 hours. I'm out. It's feeding time at the zoo. And for yourself, you have boundaries. We, don't communicate in the weekend, for example. Give each other Saturday and Sunday with our families and just be as respectful as we can about that, not asking each other to do things or checking in unnecessarily, which I really respect you for. And I know that you respect my time that way. It feels so good to be in a healthy friendship that does that. But I think there are ways on a practical level, there are ways that you can test this out. And so I think when you meet a new friend or you're not sure about a friendship, you can kind of take a 3-strike approach where perhaps, and I have let other friendships go as well in the past, where if I've come away from spending time with them and I just feel ick for some reason, I'm like, do you know what? I feel my energy is so drained. And you go through different seasons of life with people, and I have had people journey with me through my son's cancer journey and my daughter being in hospital who have sat with me, and I have been ugly on every level and not responding to messages and just in a bad way. And I've had people who've journeyed through that with me and haven't judged me for that. So please know that I'm not judging friends this way either. But if there is something that makes you feel a bit ick and is recurring, then if you, after 3 times, you still have that ick feeling, or you're feeling rejected by them, or you're like, yeah, it's all me, and it's not them, it's very one-sided, then that can be an indication to you that doesn't mean you have to dump the friendship or the relationship, but that's an indication that you should probably have a conversation with them around these are my boundaries. When I meet up with you and you cancel at the last minute, and I've cleared my full calendar to spend time with you and have coffee with you and catch up with you, and you cancel at the last minute, and you've done that 3 times in a row, what's going on there? Is this a friendship you want to, I don't want to be treated like that. And it's okay to say, I deserve better than that, and I don't want to be treated like that. Excuse me.
Amen. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I mean, I could actually talk for a long time on that subject now that I've opened up because
No,
I
it's
have
good.
learned boundaries. And I think it's a very healthy thing to bring into your world is boundaries for yourself, and knowing that starts with actually knowing what your value is.
Absolutely. I think for me, and I've done this and I've said this openly, but it's playing that competitive game. And when you're in the arena and you can feel that there's competition amongst the girls, then it makes you feel a certain way. And I caught myself just recently in a conversation with somebody, and I respectfully, I could hear her the one up, one up, one up. And I
Mm.
thought to myself, I'm actually not going to play that game. I'm actually not going to entertain that conversation because my value doesn't come from materialism. And I just retracted from the conversation and I thought to myself, it's just not worth playing the comparison game because we know
Yeah.
the old saying, the old saying, comparison is the thief of joy. But when you're in it and you can feel that competitive nature inside of conversations or with a group of people, or you have to be a certain way to be accepted, then you're actually declining who you are. So you're not respecting who you are. So I think for me recently, and maybe, being in your 40s, you're just a bit more comfortable in your skin. You don't really care what people think of you, really. Like, you just kind of like, you either like me or you don't, and I'm okay if you don't. And I
It's a
don't say
great
that.
place to be.
It's not in an arrogant way, but I know that the world's not all going to love Hannah Gare, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. It's just having those few girls in my circle that are the ones who are whispering, yes, you can. And you're fantastic at that. So I would say to you, let's do this. And you're like, absolutely, let's go. I'm right behind you. I'll take the hill for you. You only need a couple of those, and I've got them and I've found them and I'm
Yeah.
thankful for them.
Yeah.
And so in saying that, not everybody can come into your next season. And that's not in a snooty way, but that's in a way you have to be surrounding the people that you want to become.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
all know who you surround yourself with is who you actually become long term. So show
Yeah.
me your friends and I'll tell you who you are in 5 years. So I think for
Mm.
2026, that is something that has very much been part of my thinking is not everyone can come into this next season with me in a tight way. And there's a lot of releasing, especially over Christmas, New Year, like that January period. I felt that there was this conviction in my heart that there were some relationships and friendships that I needed to let go of or not hold on so tightly to. And again, not dumping the friendships. No way. I would never do that. And I'll always be there for them. But in the way, the proximity, the closeness, it's okay to give yourself permission to say, yeah, you're not that person for me that you once were. We're going to leave the podcast there. It has been such a pleasure having you with us this week for our Museum of Failures. And Vanessa and I, we love having you in our community. We love doing life with you. Keep sending in your questions. We love the vulnerability that you give to us. Thank you for being a part of our sisterhood, and we will see you next week.